Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples for how small, emerging, and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can build their business. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, or how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer, driving your business through to the end consumer, or how to go about finding an investor if you're ready for that aspect. Bottom line is we would love to help you be successful by highlighting the many important aspects of this journey to establishing and growing your brand. Tracy and I have been doing this a long time. We've made a lot of mistakes, and we've done a few good things, so we're here to help you. Please follow our podcast on iTunes or Spotify, leave us a review, and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. Tracy?
Bruce and I have been involved in consumer packaged goods commercial operations roles for over 30 years. We define commercial operation functions relating to sales, marketing, trade marketing, broker and distributor management, agency selection and management, new product development, brand acquisition and divestitures, and customer management. We also invite on our episodes friends and former colleagues from all aspects of the Road to Retail process to come on the show and offer their opinions and experience. Again, we encourage you to subscribe to our iTunes or Spotify channel at Road, 2 Retail.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Road to Retail, where we interview friends and colleagues. Welcome, Bruce. Good to see you again.
Tracy, how are you, my friend? We got a great show today.
Absolutely. So tell our audience a little bit about who we have.
Folks, today we're being joined by Patty Klingbiel. Patty is a partner at the Connell Group, which is an outstanding market research firm that specializes in helping CPG companies kind of create their positioning and find their way. No guessing with Patty. They're going to help you know. Patty, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bruce and Tracy. Happy to be here.
Well, as we jump in, why don't you give the group a little background on kind of your career history and how you got to where you are right now, and then what the Connell Group does, and then we'll jump in.
Sure. So I started my career 33 years ago at Procter & Gamble in brand marketing, at the time on the OTC healthcare business. So brands you may have heard of like Crest toothpaste and Metamucil, etc. I was there for about 8 years and then shifted into the e-commerce land. This was during the boom of the .com era, and worked at also a healthcare-focused .com, lived through the bust of the boom, redefined that business model, but then ended up working as a VP of e-commerce at what was then Merck Medco, so the PBM side of Big Merck. And then ultimately found my way into consulting, first for a guy named Sergio Zeman, who was infamous.
Oh, yeah. New Coke guy.
The new Coke guy, exactly.
He could have used the Connell Group on that one.
Exactly. And then after 4 years of that, I joined Sean Connell, our founder, and my business partner at the Connell Group, and to help him run the company and scale the business. So that's sort of the trajectory present day. We're almost 25 years old, by the way, as a firm. Our focus is really on helping brands or companies shape their brands and spark their growth by better understanding the people they either serve currently or aspire to serve in the future. So a lot of our work is primary research focused, typically in service of either innovation, concept development and clarity, or brand definition for a new brand, or often repositioning for a brand that has fallen and can't get up, I like to say.
Well, there's plenty of those, and your concept work that we spoke about as we were doing the warm-up is really interesting. We'll get to that in a bit. Tracy, kick us off.
Absolutely. So let's start with, I like to start out with you with Mythbuster. So the Mythbuster is a lot of small emerging brands think that they need, $500,000 and it's going to take 9 months to do research, which we know, is not the case anymore. So maybe talk to us a little bit about, what that looks like and kind of demystify that myth.
Sure. Well, that truly is a myth, and it is rare, especially for an emerging or challenger brand, that you have the luxury of budget or time to do things perfectly. And by perfectly, I mean the way that a P&G or a Kimberly Clark might do things. That's just not the reality of these brands, right?
Right.
But presuming that you, as the founder, CEO, or the founding team, really deeply can relate and understand your target consumer, because you happen to go to the grocery store once in a while, is just silly business, right?
Yes, of course.
So insights, whether they are small, insights with a little I or insights with a big I, really should serve as the GPS for your future brand. And doing nothing is not an acceptable answer. We do things on the small for startup brands all the time, typically starting with an exploratory qualitative project where you can literally hear the voice of the consumer, and use it to test out your hypotheses, right? Of who you think the target audience might be. Or often we encourage these clients to, if you're trying to disrupt an existing category with big brands, you better be inside the heads of whoever's using those big brands, in part to understand why they love them, but also in part to start to reveal the vulnerabilities or the areas where they are dissatisfied, so that obviously you can exploit those and market against those. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Patty, before we press on, just to push a little deeper onto Tracy's question, what's the kind of, and I know each challenge opportunity is a bit unique, but what's the kind of pricing and timing that these emerging brands can think about? Because as Tracy said, sometimes you run into founders or emerging brands that they just don't have time for research, or they think they know it all. And as you just said, just because you go to the store 3 times, doesn't make you an expert. It means you know where the store is. So if you could just talk a little bit about, hey, as Tracy said, we hear a lot, I don't have $500,000 in 9 months to wait. You're talking to the wrong people if that's the numbers you're getting.
Yeah, right. And we have the perspective at Connell because, as you said, we do a lot in CPG still, always have, always will. But we also do a lot in healthcare, including sophisticated B2B healthcare. Those audiences, when you're talking about doing research with, I don't know, chief technology officers inside of health systems, super expensive to do and a difficult recruit. When we're talking about consumer research, when we're talking about, I don't know, toothpaste consumers or diaper rash consumers, super easy and reasonably cost effective to recruit. You can be in and out of a qualitative project from start to finished report in 4 to 6 weeks. Depending on who we're recruiting, it could even be slightly faster. Budgets could be $25,000 to $35,000 to get started. By the way, that's with a competent firm. I'd like to include us in that set, with a very competent and seasoned moderator who's really in the room with the consumers, helping you to get the learning that you need.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think that additional color is super helpful.
I have a question, though.
Go ahead.
Dive in a little bit. So how many brands do you run across, or brand founders, CEOs, who think that they know the consumer, but they really don't, or they think that the consumer is them? Because we always have this bumper sticker, my baby's beautiful, so I sell it at the farmer's market, or I'm in, XYZ retailer and everybody loves it. And I know, like Bruce said, I know everything, or, they think I'm the consumer, so they don't need to do any research.
Yeah, my mom says it's great.
Yeah. Yes.
Or my wife.
Yes.
That used to be a thing at the CEO of Procter 3 decades ago, used to do the wife thing. It drove everyone nuts. I would say 80 to 85% of founders fall into that category.
That's right.
And the other thing that happens too in some of the more scientifically complex companies that we work with, so a Thermo Fisher Scientific, a lot of the marketers grew up in science. So they're marketing present day to, lab bench scientists. But 20 years ago, they used to be one of those. So they presume that they know all the answers. Meanwhile, 20 years ago, right? The world has changed, science has changed and evolved and progressed. So yeah, we often find ourselves in that situation and work hard to help these founders understand the real value and ROI. And by the way, foundational research, whether it's exploratory qual, which is always the best place to start, or if you then take those qual learnings into a very focused quant study, so you have real data, statistical analysis, et cetera, not only will that help you make better decisions, you can also repackage that learning to your retail customers when you get to that.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that because I think that's critical for a brand for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Patty. So talk to us about what actions and tactics you have seen brand leaders employ to increase the likelihood that their brand or product will be successful. You know, the traits that a brand just simply has to have in order to stand out and increase the probability of success.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So traits that a brand has to have, and I did my homework, so I'm referencing some notes. Clarity on who, I kind of think of this as the brand worldview, right? Clarity on who the target audience is. And it can't just be consumers age 18 plus.
Yeah.
So that's why you can drive a truck through that, right? So real thoughtfulness and precision around the target demographically, even attitudinally, right? Where are they shopping currently? Are they a Whole Foods shopper? Are they a Jewel shopper? Whatever the case may be. So who are you really targeting? Where's your sweet spot? Where do you fit in the category, or why are you necessary in the category?
Oh boy, juicy.
Well, it's super important.
Yeah.
A brand that we're friendly with is called Trace Femcare, and they are in the hemp and climate beneficial cotton pad and tampon business. And I mean, they're doing amazing things. One of the founders was a clinician. They've got a team of clinicians and microbiologists and a team of farmers who are growing the hemp for them. So you go to their website, one of their messaging points is from farm to flow, right? Meaning they're they know where that hemp is going all the way through the supply chain so that women can be comfortable what they're putting in their bodies. Their position in that category is very clear to me. I have a view of who that consumer is, who's interested in that proposition, and I can easily see how they're going to tell that story to the trade. While there are some starter brands that are in this sort of organic space in that category, and they're at Whole Foods, et cetera, they have a reputation for not being very effective or absorbent. So anyway, clarity on where you fit and why you need to be in the category is crucial, not just for the consumer marketing efforts, but as you speak to retailers. And then why should anyone care, right? Yeah. Why should anybody believe you? And why should anybody care? Why should the consumer care? And what are you going to do to help drive growth for your retail accounts? Whether that's sales growth, profit growth, incremental occasions, whatever the case may be.
Good. That's good stuff right there.
Very good.
Like mom and apple pie, Tracy.
I love it. So Patty, on a podcast to our small emerging and challenger brand audience, we talk about all the time the importance of being unique and different and having differentiation. You kind of alluded to that a little bit in your research, but maybe talk to our audience a little bit about your thoughts on how important that is, which I know we all are going to agree that it's very, but your perspective from the research view.
Yeah, no, it's critically important. And so much of the work that we do, we have a process called concept build. And it's a process that literally goes from early drafts of your brand or product concept, exposure to your target consumers, work session. We learn what worked, what didn't work. We, with the client team, revise, expose again. Work session, revise, expose again. So that over 2 or 3 days, to Bruce, to your question about speed, over 2 or 3 days, you're living with the consumer, so to speak, and you're iteratively improving so that at the end of those 3 days, you have a concept or a set of concepts to either take into quant testing or what have you. One of the most important things we're listening for is point of difference, right? Not only making sure that the concept is addressing a real felt unmet or underdelivered need, but that you are delivering against it either uniquely in a way that nobody else has or can, or better than, right? Better than obviously is a high bar, often requires a supportive claim to prove that 3 times more absorbent, 10 times more absorbent, whatever it is. But that's what we're really pushing for in qual, and then measuring when we do an online quant survey of which concept is highest potential. The degree to which it's perceived as new and different is always a key consideration.
Makes sense.
Even if you have 3 concepts that test flat, meaning they have equal potential, but one of them is popping on new and different, that would be the one we'd recommend proceeding with.
That's where you dig in.
Yeah.
So Patty, you kind of set the table here, but just to go back to Tracy's point of, an emerging brand, either by luck, skill, persistence, they're starting to get some traction and they're starting to try to do bigger things. Let's say move out from the farmer's market or a very, very local presence in some local stores. What is the baseline research that you and your firm would counsel, Bruce and Tracy, who come to you with our great organic skincare cream? What would you guys, if we came in and said, look, we know what we don't know, but we actually don't know what that is. So how do we go forward?
I would always recommend, after you've done some exploratory qual, right? Because I think it's important to spend a little bit of money and time to clarify who your target is, because that's going to impact who you recruit into a foundational attitudes and usage study. Some people call it habits and practices study, but think of it as an online study to really get at the landscape of the category, whatever category your brand is trying to disrupt. And part of that is so that you understand the existing habits that you're frankly trying to change, what's driving those habits, of all the things in the category, which are the attributes of a brand that will disproportionately determine consumer purchase intent or shopping intent. I will tell you one small example of the importance of that. We did a study years and years ago for Victoria's Secret. We do occasionally work for retailers directly, and it's a $5 billion business in a steady decline, and they did not understand well enough from a consumer or a brand standpoint what was causing that decline. When we looked at the data of representative bra buyers in this massive category, the thing that was most driving of decisions was, can I wear it every day? And is it fast fashion, which basically means it's on trend, but it's like a $16 bra. So if in a year it's off trend, I can throw it away. What Victoria's Secret had doubled down on was sexy, 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 right? That was one of the lowest correlated attributes in the category, because you're not wearing a sexy Valentine's Day bra when you go to work Monday through Friday, right? And Target had done a terrific job of disrupting that category by making fast fashion and intimate apparel a thing. So I use that as an example of what's really driving the dynamic and the decisions in the category, and then understanding the competitive set and how well those brands deliver or don't deliver on those key drivers in the category, so that you can start to see the area that's most relevant for your brand to position, but also where you have a right to go versus other entrenched established brands.
So 2 other things on this that Tracy and I run into. One is, I'd like to do this one second, so that's why I'm asking it first. How important is price? Okay, because everyone says, oh, price, the value, this. So I want your answer there. But first, when an emerging brand starts to think they're ready to grow, how do you provide, counsel to them on testing things like their packaging? Because Tracy and I have seen small emerging brands that have a very loyal but very local following, but the packaging is either incredibly intricate so that when you think about it at a farmer's market or in a small natural food store, it probably works. But when you try to drop that package into a Kroger or a Target and a person's going down the aisle at 25 miles an hour, I mean, how do you counsel the founders to say, probably should take a look at your package because people won't buy what they don't see?
Yeah, 100%. And again, there's different levels of sophistication on how you research this, but the best in class method that I've seen is online mock-ups of the actual shelf set, so that you're cutting in the prototype package next to whatever monster established brands are there, and you're doing it in a way that reflects what is likely to happen from a shelf set standpoint. Meaning, if you're the disruptor, you're not going to get six facings. You're going to get one, right? Against a competitor that might have 6 or 10 facings. So the point on findability and whether your package pops becomes that much more challenging and important to understand. So do they see you is part of what you'd be looking for and evaluating. And then what is popping off the package messaging in terms of communication? So that we talked a little while ago about why do you deserve to be in the category and what is your role? I better understand real clearly from your package what that role in the category is. If it's organic, if it's hemp, if it's traceability, earth-friendly cotton, whatever that is, strategic message, I would find a prominent place on the package for that. And by the way, a good design firm, right, or designer will come at this 3 or 4 different ways, right? Varying the messaging hierarchy, the color scheme, the logo, whatever it is. And then obviously you would test all 4 of those on findability, on strategic communication, and ultimately on purchase intent.
So the other part of that question, Patty, about price, I mean, we hear all the time, whether it's from emerging brands or people that are financial sponsors that might buy a legacy brand out of a big company, but it's been dormant for 10 years. It only survives because it's part of a big portfolio. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times we're going to charge a premium price for this. Really? What's different?
Right.
Why? Because as you know, being in the industry, and Tracy and I hear it with the brands we help, it's better to go in a little high, and if you have to come down, because it is really hard to go up.
Yeah.
But even coming down, you have to protect shelf stock, which has a price.
Right.
But talk to us about the person. If the leader in a category is selling for $7.99, what kind of juice does the founder have to bring to the table if they think they should be $10.99?
Well, I think it goes to product performance, right? In whatever category. If it's in teeth whitening, right, it's $7.99 is the status quo. If you're going to charge $3 more, you better have a clinical study proving that over whatever duration of time you're going to get those teeth whiter. Or if there's a perception in the category, I don't think this exists anymore, but it did 30 years ago, that whitening is unsafe and will burn your gums. Another avenue to go would be same whitening, but with clinically superior, trusted safety.
It's interesting what the whitening example, as you say that, I'm thinking it's they all say gentle. So that's why, if they thought it was going to burn, interesting, subtle message that it's going to be fine.
There's some rich history in that subtle messaging. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So you've got to have a performance advantage, and it's got to be an advantage on something that actually matters in the category, that you have understood and hopefully quantified that consumers are frustrated by or feel they are not satisfied with whatever brand they're using today. And so that's one answer if we're thinking about a broad audience. The other is you're segment driven. And you're focused on, by the way, our friends at Good Sprout, which is how you guys found me, Gaylord. his diaper cream brand is going after a very affluent, a very specific segment of people who are willing to pay more for higher performance system benefit that's been scientifically and clinically proven. So he's not going after every mom, because we know there's a lot of moms who, for financial and other reasons, are going to use Desitin or Aquaphor and be perfectly happy for it. So he has got a very specific target audience in mind that will be comfortable paying more.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Great.
So we talked about a little bit about, research and consumer research. So talk to us a little bit about what kind of research a small emerging brand should do to convince a retailer that they should take this product.
So when I talked before about how foundational, with a smaller emerging brand, every dollar counts, right? Every dollar counts, every month counts on the timeline. So I always encourage them to pay multiple dividends with one piece of research. So even if you invest in a category, attitudes and use, that could be $100,000. That could be, maybe it could be as low as 75, 120, depending on who we're recruiting, et cetera. But if you build that questionnaire properly, you can not only inform the best product design, product messaging decisions, but you can also quantify why you need to exist in the category so that you can repackage that data in a different way and build it into a sales presentation.
Yeah.
And part of what anybody wants to do, retailers expect this from the big brands of the world. They expect those leadership brands to behave like category captains, right? And to really be partners to the retailer and to lead their thinking on what the consumer is thinking and feeling and expecting, both today, but importantly, 5 years out, 10 years out, right? I don't think they expect it as much from a challenger brand. So when a challenger brand can do any aspect of that reasonably well and thoughtfully with real data, I think it says something about their seriousness and their legitimacy to be on shelf. So helping telling the retailer something they didn't already know about the dynamic in this category.
Yeah. Yeah. Bruce
And
I talk about that all the time. Buyers come into a buyer meeting, tell me something I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Well, and
Bruce?
the other thing that's really hard for, even brand managers and rookie salespeople at bigger companies is that buyer is way more interested in the performance of their category and how you can help them than the performance of your brand. Frankly, they could take it or leave it.
Yep.
And Tracy and I have interviewed some retailers, buyers, and they've said, you have to do better than what I'm taking out, because I'm investing all the time and go into these meetings with my manager to say, Tracy, I want to take these 2 brands out because, and I'm going to put these 2 new ones in because. And it's like, dude, you better be right.
Yeah, no,
So,
100%.
Yeah. So as we press on here, Patty, when we did our pre-call, you had a really interesting approach and definition to concept writing, which is near and dear to me. Because Tracy and I, we say, and it's true, consumers won't buy what they don't understand and what they can't find. So talk to us a little bit about concept writing and drafting and the components, because for founders that might just be looking to expand, or if they want to create a second line, how do you think through drafting that concept that checks some of the boxes you're talking about? There's an availability in the category, you have a claim, you've got a cause you support. Talk to us about your 5 C's. I thought that was super interesting.
So, well, let me start with just structurally how we think about concepts. And by the way, this is industry understood. This is old school P&G. Still works even in 2024. The 3 components are the underlying consumer insight, which we write in the first person in the voice of the consumer or customer you're targeting. And that has to be based on real research. And it has to really sound like something a consumer would say. So when we test insights in research, we literally are looking for this. We're looking for the head nod.
Right.
Does the consumer go, yeah, that is how I feel about my diapers. Oh my God, thank you for validating me, right? So that's the insight. The benefit, the single-minded, differentiated benefit that your brand or product is bringing to the table that can address or solve that problem we set up in the insight, as focused as it can be so that you can actually execute it in advertising or in packaging, etc. And then the reasons why they should believe that you can deliver that benefit. And that's where things like claims can come in. 10 times more absorbent, absorbs 3 times as fast, better, more safely, whitens your teeth with no gum damage, whatever the case may be, right? And
Right.
so that's structurally what we work on. And we might, for any given project, have 5 different variations of those concepts. When we're evaluating which should move forward, and even before, if we're going to take concepts into a quantitative test, we want to make sure they pass these 5 criteria. One is it clear and unambiguous, right? We don't want anything to be open to interpretation. And by the way, part of the reason for that too, again, is someday that could translate into a creative brief and you want it to be clear for your agency what they're bringing to life. So is it clear? Is it concise, as focused as possible, and free of, I always get this word wrong, superfluous? Is that the word? Free of extra stuff you don't need. And sometimes clients fall in love with their own stuff.
Oh, yeah. My
Right.
baby's beautiful. My baby's beautiful.
My baby's beautiful. And because I can say this, I want to say it. But if it doesn't help support the benefit, then why is it in the concept? So conciseness. Is it cohesive? Does it hang together? Does the benefit in the middle really pay off that unmet need? And do the reasons to believe really prove that you can deliver the benefit? Is it based in real customer understanding and a legitimate, valid, urgent need? The more urgent and important and emotional, the better. And is it competitive, which speaks to differentiation?
Right.
And will it make you more competitive at shelf versus whoever you're up against? Does that answer your question, Bruce?
Yeah.
Very much so. Those are the things. So it just shows, there's some structure. Much of it is logical, but it's the discipline to work through it.
It is absolutely about strategic discipline and really understanding, if you're testing 4 or 5 concepts, what are you isolating in each? Are you exploring different ways in, different insights? Because maybe there's multiple things, unmet needs in the category. Are you playing with different benefit articulations? I could make this about whitening. I could make this about tartar control. I could make this about cavity prevention. I'm referencing Crest because, you never forget your first brand.
Right.
So yeah, the discipline. And, we've worked in a lot of organizations, scaled organizations that just don't have that discipline, or people all have different ideas of what a concept is. So, and sometimes with newer clients, they just haven't done it before.
Yeah, they're newbies.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say, if I can circle back, Bruce, to the conversation before about retailer data. One case study that I'm very proud of, it's got to be 15 years ago now, maybe 16. We were working with the Plan B brand in the emergency contraception space. I always say that Plan B is not abortive in its method of action. It actually prevents pregnancy because sperm can live in a woman's body for like up to a week. Sorry if that's TMI, but it's important to the story. So we were working with that brand when they were full behind the counter RX. And then we were working with them as they transitioned to be over the counter and being placed in the family planning aisle inside of retailers. This was a big deal, obviously, for the brand, for all the obvious reasons. Most retailers accepted it, made the slot for it. Women needed it, no problem. Walmart, that decision went up to the Walton family.
Wow.
Yes. And they needed some help convincing them that the world would not end if Walmart allowed this emergency contraception to be on shelf next to condoms. So we did a very fast and very intensive quantitative study. And we knew working on that brand, frankly, was like working on a political campaign. We knew that there would be a normative curve and there would be a group of Walmart shoppers who were against this decision for religious or other reasons. We knew there would be lovers and we knew there would be a lot of people in the middle. That's exactly what came out. But part of what made the case successful is that even those 20 to 25% who hate Plan B and don't want to see Plan B on shelf, it would not harm their image of Walmart. It would not deter them from shopping at Walmart every week. So they're going to continue to do what they're doing. The big group of shoppers in the middle who support the decision and the others, we looked at them through a number of lenses, including shopping cart size. And the women who were most excited about Walmart making this decision, were in favor of it, also happened to be spending more money in Walmart stores. And it would positively improve their impression of Walmart going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. It would also drive Walmart's average basket ring with the price of Plan B.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
And also, even those who were against it still agreed that it was important for women to have options. So the downside really wasn't so down. And they ultimately put it on shelf.
Wow.
Interesting.
Wow. So would you say that's probably your next, you kind of leapfrog me on my question about your greatest success story. Would that be it? Or is there another one you want to share?
That's definitely up there, because I feel like it made a difference for women. The other one, actually same company, Teva Pharmaceuticals, owned a brand called Seasonique, which was a 4 periods a year birth control pill. And they really, to the cautionary tale for emerging brands about know who your target is, despite having that very unique functional benefit in the $4 billion birth control market, they hadn't really zeroed in on who their target was. We hypothesized it was attitudinal, not demographic. It was somebody who was comfortable messing with Mother Nature, manipulating their body to have fewer periods, better living through chemistry, right? Somebody who trusted their clinician to have that conversation, somebody who was interested in sexual spontaneity, who wasn't super worried about fertility. There were a number of things. Oh, and somebody who hated their period, obviously. And that's exactly what came out of we did a segmentation research, confirmed that. We repositioned the brand speaking to that attitudinal target. We fired the agency, helped the client hire the right agency, and it drove 80% growth in new prescriptions for that drug before it went generic.
That's awesome. Love that story.
Interesting.
It was great. Yeah.
So Patty, let's look at the other side, and probably not as you're probably not as enthusiastic about sharing the brand name, but that's your choice. Tell us a research project you might have been involved with that you either wish you had a do-over, or it's like, man, this is just a case of the clients just not listening.
Well, I will tell you that a couple of examples that come to mind are actually from my client side days. Although I've seen some of this behavior, the tendency, and this is a P&G example from decades ago, to glom onto a technology because you acquired a technology that does a thing. In that case, we had acquired a technology that was sort of like a sports drink on steroids in terms of intracellular hydration. The claim was something like, 10 times the hydrating properties of the leading sports drink. And we all know we don't drink enough water and blah, blah, blah. And there's real health issues that can result, as you both know, if you're perpetually dehydrated. So we were so excited about that technology. We owned it outright. We knew we could make some pretty competitive claims that we rushed ahead to talking about the product. Even at P&G, this happens. Rushed ahead to talk about the product and all the things, and didn't take a step back and really think about, are we meeting an unmet urgent need of the consumer that they are willing to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spent a lot of time not doing that. And when we finally got around to doing that research, what consumers told us was, hey, thanks for the reminder. I'm going to really take drinking 8 glasses of water a day more seriously. But I'm not going to spend money, right? But I don't need to spend money to deliver on that. I just need to do what my mother told me to do, which is to drink 8 glasses of water a day.
So did you guys go forward with the launch, or did you call it off at the last minute here once people started reading the reports versus saying, hey, we have this awesome plant in Poughkeepsie that we can make something at?
No, it was a fail fast. I mean, it could have been faster in my opinion, but yeah, we made the decision not to move forward.
Wow.
And there was another similar vein, a mouthwash patch. At the end of the day, it was a very polarizing technology. Just think about having something stuck to the roof of your mouth, delivering amazing breath freshening for a long period of time, but ultimately that habit and the downside of that habit killed the project.
Yeah, it's tough to change consumer behavior. People spend too much time trying to change it versus market to it.
Yes.
Right?
Good
Habit
point.
change is really hard. And we learned, we in CPG land, we fret about habit change when we're talking about mascara or we're talking about mouthwash or whatever. What I have learned over time, taking those CPG skills and putting them into healthcare, for example, try to convince a surgeon, a successful surgeon who's been doing the same surgical approach for 20 years to change his or her habit.
Ooh.
I mean, the stakes are a lot higher, right? Because
one that's going to be interesting to me is with all the work and publicity of autonomous cars, I'm not sure when the day is going to come when Bruce gets in the back seat of a car with no driver on I-95.
Right there with you, Bruce.
Me
I mean,
too.
maybe the other drivers will be glad Bruce isn't driving, but I certainly won't be.
Yeah,
Tracy.
no.
Good
I mean,
point.
so safety, right? Like when people's to the surgeon, there is comfort, there is safety in repeating and perfecting that same approach. And anything that jeopardizes patient safety should be taken very seriously.
That's why it's called a practice.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So let's get into the fun questions. So, Patty, tell us about the person that's had the greatest impact on your career.
Okay. So, not that this guy needs any more positive publicity, but there's a guy named Kirk Perry, who is a fellow Cincinnati Bearcat with me, and he preceded me by 1 year to P&G. He also worked on the Crest brand right out of college. But when we were still in university, I was probably a sophomore. He pulled me, he was a big leader on campus. He pulled me aside and said, I see tremendous leadership potential in you. And what do you want to do when you graduate? And do you understand how valuable it is to be a leader on your resume when you're interviewing for jobs? And so he just saw it in me, and helped me to understand a little bit about the way the world works. He had Procter in his sights already, and he helped me to see them. And that's what Procter hires into brand marketing. It's really the leadership profile more than the, whatever you studied. And he is now today CEO of, used to be IRI, and I'm forgetting their new name.
Circana.
Circana, thank you, Bruce. Yes.
They should have used the Connell Group. I'm not sure about that name, but you say IRI for 40 years when you're working or whatever. It's a little hard to change.
It is.
All right. So, Patty, I know you've been waiting for this one. We always try to ask a fun question about someone's preference for either football teams or bands, and you indicated you'd like to talk about football, so I yield the floor.
So my favorite team, I'm embarrassed I didn't wear a hat today, but I do have a Cincinnati Bearcat shot glass.
We do notice that it's empty.
It is empty. I've also got a keychain laying around here somewhere. So yeah, proud Bearcat, regular attendee at football games, was just at homecoming a couple years ago. And was a season ticket holder 4 years ago when we went into the Final Four, was at the game when we played Alabama, was also at the game when we rolled into South Bend and beat Notre Dame. When are you a Notre Dame guy?
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also had a little date with Alabama, I think, in the 2013 January, which was not very competitive on our side.
Yeah, well, I felt good that in that final game in Dallas that we were in the game. Obviously we were the underdog against Alabama. Apparently we should have played Alabama this year. So anyway, that's my favorite team. Big Travis, and because of the Kelsey brothers, that they were my gateway drug into the NFL. So now I'm watching the Chiefs. I'm even watching the Bears and watching the Bengals. So there you go.
Well, as a Panthers fan, I don't watch much NFL this year. I'm not sure we still qualify as an NFL team.
I'm a Florida State fan, and I don't watch much Florida State this year either. So we're all there.
So Patty, why don't you tell us how people can get in touch with you if they want to learn more about the Connell Group and the services you guys offer?
Sure. So the easiest way is via email. My last name is, or go to our website, connellgroup.com, just as it sounds, CONNELL group.com. Our contact information is there. Patty Klingbiel on LinkedIn, or my email is on the website as well. And our founder is Sean Connell. He's also on LinkedIn and on the website, and also a proud Bearcat.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and giving our audience some things to think about when it comes to research, because cutting corners sounds great until you crash. And then right. It's like, geez, what could we have done different? All right, Tracy.
And by the way, one last thought too is when we work with startup clients, early stage clients, we often find in that first conversation, they come to us saying, I need a piece of research that does X, and it's usually not quite right. And so we work with them to say, let's take a step back. What are you solving for? And what do you want to do on the back end of this? And then we together can really shape what they really need to do and what it is worth spending time and money on.
So what you're really saying is the call goes like this. Hey, Patty, this is Bruce, and I have this awesome brand. I need some research that validates what I'm already going to do.
Correct.
Exactly. All right, Tracy, bring us home with the big finish.
Patty, thank you so much for joining us today. You are awesome. Great insight. I know our small emerging and challenger brand following is going to love this. So just encourage our groups to follow us on Apple, where you listen to your podcasts, also on Spotify, and also on our LinkedIn page. So look for this episode posting in the near future. And again, thank you so much, Patty, and go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats. Thanks.
Good luck out there, folks.
All right.